Yeah, in progress. Okay, March 5th, 2024. We're approaching the fourth anniversary of the first of these Zoom meetings in the just think about what was going on in March of 2020. If you think things are bad now, you know, we're like, is there some kind of a like bad thing? 2 weeks later, we're like locking the front door. Okay, don't go outside. Oh, and there's Reverend Freakchild. Let's hope he brought his harmonica. All right. These are going to sound like cryptic statements to somebody who watches this recording. Reverend Freakchild, aka Fordham, was on the retreat and he played some harmonica well, I played the guitar at the end of the retreat. That was the reference. And it was quite delightful. So we are
Good
going
stuff.
to, what's that? What's that, Fordham?
Good stuff. Sorry, I'm just waking up here, man. I'm taking the temperature. I stayed up late. It's
You
even later
party
here in
animals.
Colorado.
I was
Musicians
thinking
good. Hey,
about,
yeah, that was awesome.
yeah, we didn't, I was thinking we didn't have a chance to talk uh, about Mojo Nixon. I'm sure you saw that he passed, and like I've got to imagine that
Yeah,
you're a fan.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and
Well, new
El
kooky blues kind of a thing.
Elvis is everywhere. You need to write a song like that, and then you can, then you'll be really successful. I'm telling you.
Well, we'll work on one. Maybe you and I.
Okay, Buddha is everywhere.
Awesome, awesome retreat. Great to be with you all.
Thanks, Fordham. All right, folks. So we'll start with a 20-minute sit, and then we'll see what happens after that. So as usual, settling into a comfortable meditation posture. It's nice to see everybody kind of adjusting. Yeah, and finding that just a sense of groundedness. Things are flickering over here, so I'm getting a little distracted. Yeah, you can close your eyes or just lower your gaze. And tuning into the body and how you're holding your body. Are you aligned or are you maybe a little out of balance that needs to be adjusted? Then coming into stillness. And feeling the body settling, the breath moving in and out. With the stillness, just having a sense of letting go. The body drawn to the earth, steady, calm. Within that stillness, seeing that there is this constant activity, the breath, the heart, the nervous system. Life goes on within you and without you, as George Harrison. That we are just sitting with that life. And as the body settles, we might tune into the subtler energies, underlying feelings, feeling tone. This may have an emotional color to it, or it might be more of an energetic quality. Sometimes when we begin to meditate, coming into stillness, it can feel as if our body is still moving, almost as though we're still moving forward, as though the chair we're in is some kind of vehicle moving through space. So we continue to stay with the breath, the simple rising, falling. This essential activity of life that we so often take for granted. Only when the breath is difficult do we get to see how important it is, fundamental. As long as the body is safe and healthy, the mind can go off on its excursions. But when the body is threatened or unhealthy, suddenly we are drawn back to this primal level. We see how fragile, precious this breath is, this heart is, these bones, this flesh, these organs. One element of our practice is to remember this fragile, contingent nature of our lives, to be fully engaged in this life as it appears moment by moment. taking particular care to notice any unwholesome or unhelpful thoughts or emotional states, and seeing if you can bring in kindness in response to them, not rejecting them, but holding them with kindness, holding yourself with love. What does that mean? How can you do that? So here we draw on our imagination, a wholesome aspect of imagination, reflecting on those we love and those who love us, reflecting on the joys of our lives, the wholesome qualities that we manifest. So easy to get drawn into unhelpful thought patterns, difficult emotions are like magnets that pull us toward them. So to breathe and encounter those energies, powers with the wholesome, with compassion, with kindness. Oh, welcome again. Maybe there are some people, I know there's some people who have not been with us before. Um, anyway, everyone is welcome. I am Kevin Griffin. And the kind of the theme of the day is a bit like this post-retreat, because uh, for those who don't know and those who weren't able to attend, we just had a retreat last week from Tuesday to Sunday, so it just ended day before yesterday, and half a dozen or so of the people from the retreat are here. So it kind of it feels like the natural thing to kind of pick up a little of the themes and kind of go back over some of them. And one of the things that's very interesting about a meditation retreat to me is the way themes will kind of emerge out of the interchanges and conversations and teachings. So one of the phrases that showed up was already gone. It's already gone. One of the participants, Tom, brought that up as something that he had heard years ago, apparently from me, although there is no record of it. But just kind of as a way of which is of course a statement on impermanence, and I guess he'd been talking to me about some experience he had and how to work with that, and it was like, I guess I said it's already gone, and then that kind of came through a few times. We found that kind of applying to the things that showed up in some of the sharing. Um, the other phrase, which I'm been using, and in the book I'm working on the Anapanasati Sutta, is the vibratory nature of all things, and this refers to the meditative. Well, it refers to reality, that suggesting that everything is vibrating and on this kind of atomic level or subatomic level, but in the meditative experience that in various aspects of our perception, we can feel everything as kind of unstable or vibrating in some way. So that, this, uh, I guess the first place that this kind of showed up in my reflections over the years was in what Ajahn Sumedho calls the sound of silence, which is a meditation practice he does, where he early on in his training as a monk, instead of paying attention to the breath, he found himself drawn to just the sounds in his ear, the kind of this can vary in tone, but kind of white noise or uh, humming sound that many people can hear. I don't know if it's there for everyone or what. Any don't really know anything about the physiological aspect of it, but of course in unpleasant, when it shows up as loud and becomes unpleasant, then we call it tinnitus or tinnitus, and but it has this vibratory quality that, I know when I've worked with it, it's like it's not steady. It's not like one buzz. It's like this vibrating sound. And then, as I shared on the retreat, the one teacher, Julie Wester, who was years ago, I was on a retreat where Ajahn Amaro, who also does this sound of silence practice, was talking about that. And she said, well, I can't hear that sound, but I feel that in my body. I feel this vibratory underlying vibration in my body. And then I've also heard people talk about how when their eyes are closed, they see a kind of a vibration or various colors, things appearing, and so I've kind of put all that together into what I call the vibratory nature of all things. So that when we tune in to any sensory experience that we, as our attention and our concentration gets more subtle, we pick up something that seems like a solid thing. We start to see that it's actually vibrating on this level. And I mean, even the breath itself, if you really tune into an in breath and an out breath, you see that it's not one steady stream, but rather, a vibrating movement of air. So I mean, that's just another one of those sort of interesting things. And what I one of the reasons I point to that is that we can get a little enraptured with like when stuff is like vibrating and we're like, whoa, man, what's happening? This is really heavy. And it's like, no, it's just like everything. That's how everything is. Like, don't get too hung up on it. It's interesting and it can be helpful as a concentration object. And it's certainly an object for insight to realize, oh, nothing is really solid or stable. So I need to let go. And obviously, it also points to what we call emptiness or not self, because there isn't some solid self, etc. So there's a lot that comes out of it. But for the, psychedelically inclined, it can take you off in another direction of kind of attachment to like, oh, wow, man, kind of like, and not only like thinking it's cool, but also like spending your time trying to get there so that you can like be on this level as though like because it's just a passing experience. It's something you can encounter when the mind is in certain states of awareness, concentration, but we can get attached to it as like something that we like, and we like, I want to get there, and then we get off track. And that brings me to the third thing, which is really the theme that was most important to me, that I've been working with for a while, and I actually talked about this on Sunday night as well, which is right intention. Um, and and this came up. One of the ways that it came up for me recently was realizing that concentration in meditation, when it is not informed by right intention, tends toward clinging. So if we're concentrated, but we don't have right intention, we're actually holding on to the object, right, rather than letting go, which is part of right intention. I'll go into the details of right intention in a moment. So the concentration part of the Eightfold Path, important aspect of meditation, but it needs to be informed by right intention, right? We have to be doing it for the right reasons, in other words, or with the right motivation. And then another aspect of the Eightfold Path, right? Effort. Effort, when not informed by right intention, tends toward grasping, right? Like, oh, I'm supposed to pay attention to my breath. I'm supposed to get concentrated. Oh, like I'm supposed to have loving kindness. Oh, what do I do? Let me get to work on that. And all of a sudden we've really lost the, the fundamental kind of quality of letting go, of presence. Instead, we're kind of caught up in this competitive quality or achievement or ambitious quality in our meditation. So I find that interesting because effort and concentration are so important in meditation, and they are two things that are uh, challenging. Effort particularly there's always a question of what, what kind of effort should I make? And then with concentration, there's very often this wish to have it, because it's the most pleasant kind of aspect of meditation. So coming back to what is right intention. So in the classic teachings, in the early Buddhist teachings, the Buddha uh, lists three things that uh, are the qualities of right intention: letting go, kindness, loving kindness, and compassion, the wish for people to be free from pain. from suffering. So the loving kindness and compassion are pretty easy to, I mean, not necessarily easy to evoke, but to understand, like, am I acting out of kindness now, or is this cruel? You know, like when I look at the highway workers and judge them for, like, oh, they're not working hard enough because they're looking in the hole there. That's not compassionate. It's not kind, right? So I apologize if that was not right. I wasn't speaking out of right intention. But letting go is the really tricky one because and here, particularly with right effort, we can see, okay, I'm supposed to make an effort, but I'm supposed to let go. Like, which is it? You know? And so we can also see, like, there are various places often where the Buddha talks about, being ardent and resolute, really being engaged, in the another great list, the paramitas, the perfections. Determination is one of the paramitas. So how can we be engaged and have effort and be ardent without grasping? And how can there be letting go in that? And I think there's I mean, first of all, I think that's something that each of us, uh, it's useful for each of us to reflect on that, and more importantly, to pay attention to in the moment of engagement and to see how that might work. So, but one way we can put it and frame it in the recovery language is turning it over, right? Like the third step in the 12 steps is we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God. And, that's sort of, language that doesn't so much resonate for a Buddhist, but it's pointing to something similar because it's the 12 steps are, we certainly know, are not a passive kind of approach at all. There's a tremendous engagement in them. You're making amends, writing inventories, and all the work to let go and to be of service and all of that, cultivating a lot of positive qualities. But it's this idea that, first of all, and I think one of the critical pieces of it is that our our effort is not results driven. It's not results dependent. It's it's so it's really what's the expectation behind the effort. So that again comes back to, what is my intention in making this effort? Is my intention to get what I want? Or is it to, you know, hmm, is it to show up? I mean, let's just do it in the simple terms, do my best, right? So in this effort, there is this inherent trust, which is also the faith that we see in the third step, right? There's a trust. So, okay, now where are we going now? What are we trusting in when we're letting go in Buddhism? We're trusting in the law of karma. So I'm going around and around here, and as usual, anyway, I won't do criticize Kevin's Dharma talk as he's giving it, but let's just say that what does the Buddha say about karma? This is so interesting, right? The Buddha says that at one point, uh, intention, I say, monks, is karma, or karma, I say, monks, is intention. That is to say that it's the motivation behind our action. It's that driving energy that will inform the results of that action. So I like the idea inform the results, because it doesn't determine the results, right? Like, you can't sort of say, well, I I was really generous and I gave this money to the monks. So now I'm going to get, win the lottery. Now I'm going to, get everything I want. But that rather there's, let's put it another way, that the results will harmonize with the intention. And that's maybe even a better way of thinking of it, because they're informed by, but they're harmonized. It's like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. Like like I I did this thing, you know, I wanted to be kind or I wanted to be generous, and then oh, the result is, I feel good, for instance, or those people appreciate me, or there's a connection made. Um, and much more, of course. That's just, one very simplistic kind of example. But uh, this this idea, I mean, I think it's interesting that faith needs is really behind our our willingness to engage in right intention, because there is no guaranteed payoff. And because we ordinarily think in terms of I have to get mine, or at least I'm responsible for doing this and getting this done. If I expect it to be done, I have to do it. And it's going to require me to push through and, and, you know, we get into these situations that just aren't, um, so simple. So I'll go back to my own recovery and the really critical uh, elements of growth in my recovery. A big one was when I decided to go back to school when I was 3 years sober. I was 38 years old and I was a high school dropout. I had a GED, and I said to my sponsor, because I was starting to you know, other people were going back to school. I was like, what am I going to do with my life? I'm a 38-year-old, musician who has not had the success that he wanted. Like, where am I going? It's like, well, maybe I should go to school. And I said to my sponsor, but it'll take I mean, in 4 years to go through college. And it was like, well, yeah, well, in 4 years, you're going to be 4 years older. And you could have a degree or you could not have a degree. And of course, that made perfect sense. But there was also where's that going to lead? Right. And, 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 where did it lead? I mean, it's really weird, but this is where it led, right? Like, I went back to school and within 2 semesters, I was writing a novel. I'm like, what? What am I doing? Like, where's this leading? But of course, my mind, of course, latched onto that. I know where this is leading. I'm going to be a rich and famous novelist. But no, what was happening was that of course, the ego wants to grab onto this thing and fearful and all that stuff but really what was going on was I was learning how to write, right? And I learned how to write. And then, you know, 15 years after that, I wrote a book and people liked it, and then, so there was a certain amount of right intention in that. The right intention was, I want to improve my life and I'd like to get educated and know more and be able to fulfill my potential more. And there was wrong intention, which is I want to I want to get right, I want to get this stuff and fix everything. But there's always that, right? And that's one of the things that I think is important in terms of self-judgment. Am I going to judge myself because there's part of me that's well, I'm going to teach this retreat and I'm going to make some money, well, okay, sure, that's okay. As long as you're not teaching the retreat to make money, because that's not a good career choice. But so this whole, we realize as with everything in Buddhism. It's never simple, right? There's always layered complexities to it. That right intention. Oh, good. Okay, what am I supposed to do? Just tell me what to do. Right intention. Right? No, 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 no. This is not like just do this. This is requires, this reflection, sensitivity, attunement. So a key element of right intention is right mindfulness, right? So now we got four elements of the Eightfold Path: right effort, right concentration, right mindfulness, right intention. But of course, all the other factors are involved too. And this is the great challenge of the Dharma of Buddhism, which is that, I mean, the fundamental challenge of it is we are responsible. That's the fundamental challenge. And then the greater challenge is that we need to develop a bunch of qualities, and we need to actually learn a bunch of things so that we can say, am I doing the thing that's skillful right now? Is this right intention? Is my but the mindfulness needs to be there so I can tune in to see, does this effort feel like grasping, or does it feel like, letting go? Is this concentration uh, building out of wanting to be concentrated, or is it a wholesome quality of attuning the mind and settling the mind? So this is the great challenge, and that contrasts with typical religious beliefs, or particularly fundamentalist beliefs, in which we encounter in the 12-step world as well as in the Buddhist world. Like, just do this and then you'll get that. You know, just say these prayers and then you go to heaven, or whatever your thing is. And this is right and this is wrong. And uh, and it's much easier. I understand why people are drawn to that. It's much easier to just have rules and just do this, and then God will love you and you will go to heaven. That's much easier than, well, try to be to cultivate, develop mindfulness, work at that so that you can be attuned to your effort, and so that you can notice the quality of your intention. And your intention is probably not going to be perfect. So you're going to have to see, like, accept yourself, and even though you're not perfect. And, this is, a challenging path. I mean, I feel at times overwhelmed by it, quite honestly. There are times when I think, oh, God, like, no, like, I just, I thought I had it. I thought I had it. I don't think I think wait a minute, I think I'm gonna have to resign as a Dharma teacher. Uh, uh, but uh, but that's it, right? Because the truth is that when we adopt some black and white, right and wrong fundamentalist approach, at some point it will fail you, unless you are able to maintain a certain level of delusion. So I think that might be a fairly judgmental statement that I just made, but it's just a guess. It's a guess that it's kind of like the midlife crisis comes, and then you realize, like, what you were basing your life on was really empty, and was not the answer. You know. So I will leave it at that for now, and let people chime in as they like. Thank you. As Christopher Titmuss used to say on retreats, anybody, anytime. Well, as long as we're, I'm sure somebody will raise their hand in a moment, but a little information for you. I will be co-teaching with Ann Bolger, who I believe I saw on here, in Santa Cruz on March 16th, a day-long retreat at the Insight Santa Cruz. So that will be and I've also been recently invited to go start back teaching at the Berkeley Buddhist Monastery in person. So I will let you know once we set up a schedule there. And then thirdly and finally, well, other than the retreats that are coming up that you can see on my website, well, I'll mention them. But in April, I'm teaching a 4-week Dharma and Recovery series for the San Francisco Dharma Collective, which is now on 24th Street. That's all these things are on my website. Then I'm teaching a series of several retreats in May with Vimalasara in Big Bear, which is Southern California mountains. In June, I'm teaching for the Flowering Lotus Center or group community, which is out of Mississippi, maybe Jackson, but they said we were going to be in Alabama, which I'm excited about. Never been to Alabama. And then in June, Greg and I are going to go teach in Southeast Indiana. So I'm covering some territory I have not covered before.
Awesome.
Yeah. Ann Bolger.
Oh, hi. I didn't realize that's awesome. You're going to Alabama and Indiana.
I know. Yeah.
Really
Yeah.
awesome.
Carrying the message, and
Yeah.
hopefully I don't encounter any AR-15s or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Well,
We have them here
go
too.
to.
What's up?
What's up? Well, first, I just want to say what came up in the meditation for me was resting in that sort of little container that you at the end there made this it was like metta and joy. I sort of was like sitting with that, and what came out of that was like, because in the beginning I was a little like, oh, I really am sorry I missed the retreat. I felt a little bit of missing out there, just a little twinge. And I'm like, oh, I had a wonderful time with my beloved, but what came out of it was this like mudita for everybody here who went, for the teachers, and for all your practice, and then just sitting with everybody in the meditation this morning. So that's what came up for me. And resting in this container. It's not even a container because folding in metta and compassion and joy, just kind of folding it in, not this or that, difficult feelings, loving kindness, compassion. It's just like this folding in. It's like more of a flow. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I certainly I think this is a theme that's been picked up across the Insight Buddhist world in the last decade, at least, that mindfulness and loving kindness are not really separate, and that they should not, or it's not really helpful to try to separate them and do and that particularly in my mind that some kind of compassion or loving kindness energy and attitude really very often needs to be there in my mindfulness practice to soothe the difficult mind states that arise.
And also the vibrating energy system.
Yeah, that's right.
That often feels pleasant and a great concentration practice, but then there's that other vibrating, what do they call it, low vibrational, I guess. But yeah, yes, I agree. Yeah, it's infused. Yeah. The more I practice, the more I see it that way and experience it that way.
Yeah. Well, I think when it's one of those it's sort of a practical issue that when you're teaching someone who's never practiced meditation, you have to kind of give them one little thing at a time. You can't say like, okay, do this and then blend this in and then cultivate spacious awareness. Like what? No, and that's what I love about actually, and really what first drew me to Buddhist meditation was that it was very practical and it was just like, do this and then do this. And then I knew what I was supposed to do. Because it takes a while before you develop the subtlety of awareness to be able to start to tune in to the idea that you could blend, a quality of loving kindness with the breath or with the mindfulness. You can't sort of take it all on at once. It takes a little while.
Mhm.
So anybody who's new to this practice, you know, take it easy. Um, so, John Manlove, hello.
Hey, Kevin. Glad to be back on your sessions. I've missed quite a few. So I think my question relates to what you've been talking about, and it's kind of a practical one. So how difficult is a week-long retreat for a beginner? I hear intent and concentration and those things. And I honestly, I have this fear that I'm not going to be able to. I'm planning on going to your one in the Southern Dharma Center, North Carolina.
Great.
That's where I live. So that's my plan. But I'm like, how can I do this? So if you have any thoughts on it, I'm sure you do, about what a week-long retreat is like for a beginner, from your experience.
Well, it's each person's experience is different. Typically, initially there's a sort of sense of disorientation, and sort of a little bit like, what am I doing? What am I supposed to do? How does this work? And then the kind of schedule and sort of adjusting to the structure. It's somewhat physically challenging because you kind of get sleepy, or you're sitting, doing a lot of sitting, and the body might start to be uncomfortable. But I mean, first of all, I think that the group, having this community doing this together, and a compassionate teacher or teachers there kind of trying to gently help you through it, there's a sense like, okay, uh, all these people are here and they're doing it, and I guess I can, let me just keep going, and then at some point you're like, maybe I should leave, and then you're like, well, let me just one more sit, or let me just stay till tomorrow, kind of, and then, and then there is a gradual settling for most people. I mean, sometimes people have really difficult retreats start to finish, and they can be like that. Um, but generally there's a kind of arc in that you kind of start out kind of restless and sleepy, and then, then you'll kind of land, you'll have a sit where it's like, oh wow, that was different, that was kind of neat, and then you're hearing the teachings and you're kind of getting like, hey, this is, and you're doing walking meditations, like, wow, this is really kind of beautiful, like Southern Dharma, it's beautiful. You'll be like, whoa, this is, and there's a certain magic that happens too, so it's really a a, a lot a lot happens. But you can certainly do it, and you should be fine. I designed my retreats to be so that there isn't absolute silence, because I don't really believe that absolute silence is necessarily the best thing, or the only way to have a beneficial retreat. So there's a certain amount of interaction that I think can relieve some of the pressure cooker feeling of just being in silence. And it also supports the building of community and a sense of intimacy, which I know the people who were on the retreat last week were here can speak to, as Eleanor gives us the thumbs up, like a real feeling of like togetherness and love for each other. So it's really, really worth doing, because there's no other way that I know of, without illicit substances to evoke kind of these states, and where we don't do those things anymore. So I'm glad you're going to come to Southern Dharma. Yeah, have you signed up already?
Not yet. I'm
I
very close.
I recommend that you sign up, because that retreat fills up.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I'll get to it. Thank you for that answer.
All right,
Appreciate it.
John. Great. I mean, that was great. We'll be able to meet in person. Okay, one more. I'm going to have to. I can't hang out too late today, but AP,
Hi, how are you?
hello.
I don't know how I'm not going to worry about whether it's profound or a big deal, because I think a lot of things that are more subtle are the more major breakthroughs for me, because they're not really words. They're not even really conceptual, but what
Yeah.
came up for me during the meditation, and then it seemed that that's what you were discussing after, was
Uh-huh.
something like, anything I try to control, I will lose. Anything I try
Mm,
to hold on to, I will lose. So this rigidity versus being flexible, and when I say trying to control, and with the backdrop being the 12-step ideas of, or the 12-step fear, dishonesty, selfishness, or resentment, anything
mm,
I'm trying to hold on to because I'm worried. It was really a matter of identification. I was thinking about, I couldn't remember whether it was I, me, my. I was like,
mm,
my brain was just completely obsessive. But I just, it was just this, the words were something like, let go of the wheel.
mm,
Like, God steers, I pedal. But it was like, let go of the wheel, and the rigidity and the pain in my neck, the pain in my shoulders, the pain in my body, all the things that are aversive, I create because of
mm,
my fear, my dishonesty, my resentment, and my selfishness. And then I lose them because I can't act. I can't, certainly not out of right intention.
mm.
So yeah, that was the whole big deal. So I guess I was trying to rename the book from Drop the Rock to Let Go of the Wheel. Like, I'm so original here.
Fair. That's good. Thank you. I think you summed up a lot of the ideas we're talking about today. So appreciate it. Um, so I am going to say thank you.
That I somehow
Oh,
won't be me.
I'm sorry. I thought you would stop talking.
I probably should have, but so
I-
does that, I don't know, that was the biggest thing. Like, my identity is not the obsessive thoughts and these things that I'm afraid of. The things that I'm afraid of losing, I won't stop being me somehow because I lose them, or I've
n-
lost them.
you will not. I mean, much as we might try to stop being ourselves, it's one of the rabbit holes Buddhists can fall down. Like, oh, I'm going to become somebody else. No. All right. I'm going to close this. So thank you. And so yeah, I think this is a good theme to offer you for the week, is right intention, and and just watching how your effort is directed, and what you're moving toward and what you're moving away from. So lovely to see everyone, especially give a little extra for my friends from last week, and blessings to everybody. Ah, peace.
Thanks, Kevin. Take care.
Okay. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you, Kevin.
All right, Steve. See you,
I
man.
wish I was still in the redwoods.
Oh, by the way, I love that that be like a glacier card you gave. That was so good. I sent that to the other teachers. Yeah, yeah. Be cool.
Great. It was a great retreat. I really appreciated it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'll see you next week.
Okay.
See you
All
next
right.
week.
everybody. All right. Oh, this Friday also is the Spirit Rock. I
Oh.
forgot to mention it, but anyway.
Good.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Bye-bye. Oh, Monica, would you stay on a second? Just, um, just to let you know that next Tuesday, I have a doctor's appointment at 9 a.m. And it should be really quick because I'm just getting like an injection into my knee. But can you start the meeting without me? You're muted, even though it says you're not. I can't hear you anyway. Still can't hear you. No. Your microphone turned down or anything? Your mic. Me signing in. All right, we'll figure it out. I might just start it on my phone for, if I'm late. Yeah. Okay, I gotta go. Let's see. Okay.